as an entrepreneur, you know that selling is part of what you do. To be an effective person who sells somebody something, you don't want to be salesy. But you also have to know so many things, and it's such a layered process to effectively sell to somebody. And really, because you want to help them, not because you need to sell to them, but because they need what you have to offer. And there's so many layers and so many things you need to be. You need to know what your avatar is like. You need to know what they will invest in. You need to have an emotional quotient to be able to relate to them and put yourself in their shoes. You need to know the cutting edge tools to be able to sell, like, for instance, right now, AI, all while being your authentic self, so that they really know that you care about them and you're invested in them. So how do you do all that? Well, there might be a little sales formula that we're going to share today, but you know the drill. You got to sit right there to learn about the formula.
Welcome to Waist Up Wardrobe. I'm Christine Vartanian, an attorney turned personal style expert and image consultant. As the founder of Jade House of Style, I am passionate about unveiling the inner confidence of my clients by developing their personal style and dressing them for success. But is getting dressed up still important in our virtual world? Well, that's where my experience can help with what I call Waist Up Wardrobe. Waist Up Wardrobe is a podcast for all things you need to conduct an outstanding Zoom meeting. It's about how to dress for the camera, but it's not just about the clothes. It's about everything you need to know to show up on brand and professionally for the camera. Join me in the Waist Up Wardrobe studio to discuss how to navigate this virtual world and dominate from behind the desk.
Hello, Waist Up Wardrobe Nation. Welcome to another episode of Waist Up Wardrobe, where we bring you all the things you need to know as a business owner and professional out there in the world to show up professionally on and off camera. Today, we're going to be discussing something that is at the heart of every entrepreneur, is the ability to sell effectively and to do, of course, authentically, and all the little layers of things that you need to consider when you're trying to be the best salesperson you can be and use the sales skills to really help your target market and the person you're selling to really feel that you're invested in them and that you care about them. So today we have an expert that is going to unveil sort of the formula that it takes to get there. And I am going to introduce him in just a second by reading his bio first. But I wanted to say, remember, we are on iTunes, so you can easily listen to us if you're taking a walk on the beach. You can also catch us every Thursday right here at 11:30 on Facebook, streaming through StreamYard, through Waist Up Wardrobe. We are also on YouTube and multiple other platforms. So check us out and rate us and review us if you're so inclined on iTunes. We'd love that. And we are also on Instagram, of course. So let's talk about sales. But before we do that, I want to introduce you to Matt Rocco, my guest today. And Matt is an accomplished sales and management expert. He's known for driving growth for the companies and businesses he serves of really all different kinds of sizes. He has a knack for implementing interactive strategies among sales teams, and he's able to transform these teams and elevate companies in the process in the competitive markets that we are in. His mastery of the Sandler sales system, which we're going to discuss, and the processes with that has really revolutionized the organizations he's worked with. And he has become in this arena, he is a leader, and he has had so many strategic insights that have really propelled his clients forward. So please help me welcome Matt to the program.
Thank you so much, Christine. How are you?
Nice. Good. And thank you for being here. And I just want to make sure that I pronounce your last name correctly. Is it Matt Rocco?
Yeah, you nailed it.
That's okay, good. Well, it's not hard, but I questioned myself when I said it out loud. I was like, wait, did I say that right?
Yeah. And because of the name, it ends up being a lot of people just call you that. So I hear Rocco more than I hear Matt when it's all said and done.
Interesting. Well, Rocco is definitely a rock star, first name, last name, nickname, whatever. So That's awesome. Okay. Is it Italian?
It is. Yep,
Okay.
Sicily specifically.
All right. All right. Well, before we dive into your genius and the work that you do, we have this thing on Waist Up Wardrobe where we do 60 seconds of getting to know the guests because, everybody wants to know who's talking to them. So,
Right. Who's this other person, right?
yeah. So I'm going to ask you some this or that questions and just respond whatever comes to mind.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Volleyball or basketball?
Both.
Tell me
Primarily
why.
basketball, though.
Tell me why.
Oh, let's see. Enjoy playing basketball. Usually get in at least about once a week, a pickup game with a couple buddies of mine. Ages anywhere from 20 all the way up to probably 50, 55. There's even maybe a 61-year-old guy that gets out there. And it's all about staying physical, getting in that cardio. And then I also, I love coaching youth. My heart beats for youth. And actually I'm a coach outside of work, the work I do as a sales coach. I also spend time working with youth, coaching volleyball and basketball.
Oh, well, I think that is a really great way to be a role model for people that, especially young people, young adults, teenagers who are really trying to find their way in the world because it is a hard world to navigate. Wouldn't you
It
agree?
truly is.
Yeah.
It's harder today than it's ever been. And it just the influences of everything that's out there when it comes to social media, and just the pressures on youth is unbelievable. And so I couldn't agree more with what you said.
Yes, I completely agree as well. And that's a thing, as we become more innovative and more advanced technologically, our lives seem to get more difficult. Um, which is
There's no doubt about it. The simplicity kind
yeah,
of disappears.
yeah. But they're also really key tools if used correctly to really be able to reach goals and success, wouldn't you say?
I would agree. There
Yeah.
definitely are.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs, Australian Shepherds.
You have one. I take
My
it.
daughter does. I have a
Okay.
19-year-old, my oldest daughter.
Uh-huh.
About 6-7 months ago, got one, and I'm a girl dad. No boys in the house, so he is a boy dog, and yeah, we bond well together.
Oh, that's awesome. But it's her dog.
It's her dog, but I'm a close second when it comes to his favorites.
I'm sure it's funny how like somebody sets out to get the dog and then the dog really becomes bonded with a particular person in the family.
Which is her, but they call him Wiggle Butts, the Australian Shepherds, and his he starts wagging when he sees me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, when my kids finally convinced me to get a dog, which took a long time because I did not want to take care of another soul. I finally agreed to it, and we got him as a puppy, and we kind of let him, introduce himself to all of us when he got here, and he went and introduced himself to everybody, but he kept coming back to me, and everybody was like, why does he keep wanting to go to mom?
That's hilarious.
And it's truly my dog. He is my dog, even though I was not the one who wanted him, which is always so interesting to see that happen.
I can totally relate with, there's this period where kids are just not probably responsible enough to have a dog on their own. And so, you're committing to all the duties that it's going to take to take care of another person in the home. And yeah, it's a whole nother deal, isn't it?
It totally is, but it brings a lot of joy.
So much.
It's a good trade-off. And I understand you're in Florida. You're talking to us from Florida. So this is the beauty of, the current world, right? Being able to reach anybody, literally anywhere in the world. So thank you for being here. And I just want to dive into your genius at this point because I feel when I was reading about you that you sort of like, when I read everything, I'm like, oh, Matt has a formula. It feels like a formula to being able to elevate yourself in sales or sales training. So I want to get into that. And one of the things that fascinated me the most, because I have sort of this philosophical side of me, is the term you use stating that sales is an art. And if you can take that phrase, I love that. And I will be using it from now on. I'm going to hijack that phrase, but it is yours. Tell me why you say that and what that means to you.
Love the question. Love the question. You look at just interaction. We'll start with kind of going foundational here. You look at interaction between human beings, and you're meeting together, and you're creating some bonding, and there's some rapport being built as you start out having a conversation with someone. And the individuals that are in sales and say, okay, this is something I'm really proud of what I'm doing. The profession of being a salesperson and a professional seller is one that you should be very proud of. There is a lot of negative connotation out there around salespeople, because there's a lot out there that do it very distastefully, and they really make their prospects or potential buyers feel very uncomfortable as they're walking them through that process. But the way I view it, and the way that I work with the people that I coach, is to do it artfully and care so much about the other individual that you're working with, that you start to learn what are the little nuances and a lot of it is human behavior and the psychology behind what someone's thinking subconsciously, but find a way to where you can connect with them at a level that's with a lot of empathy, a lot of sincerity. You're truly there for their best interest at heart. And you'll develop an ebb and flow to where sales becomes just smooth and easy, because you're not forcing something, you're not pushing someone, you're working with them to where they see the information that they need to know on their own. And once it's their own data that they're working off of, sales becomes very smooth.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, as a business owner, I sell a lot. I mean, that's what we do as business owners.
Right.
But see, I look at it, and this is really very much aligns. I look at sales as being in a fiduciary position with my client. In other words, I feel responsible for the outcome for them as if they were a member of my family. And how would I want to be treated and talk to and explain things to? How would I want to, and in other words, putting myself in their shoes. But I do feel like we have this, and people who sell and know they're not really selling, that they're helping, but of course they are in a business that needs to profit. So there's the balance of that, right?
Right.
But I feel like I am responsible for how they feel throughout the customer journey, for what the outcome ends up at the end, whether they're pleased or not pleased, what disappointed them. So I never want to be in a place where I've sold something to somebody and then they get buyer's remorse, because then I wouldn't have fulfilled my own duty to them. I see it as a duty. And I feel like if more people approached it that way, then I think the sales idea would not be as negatively looked on, because we've all been in a position where somebody has sold us something or tried to sell us something and it just didn't feel right. It felt icky. So definitely an art and definitely a responsibility. And you seem to really think that way. And so you train sales teams in these methods of how to sell in a way that's authentic?
We do. And Sandler is a company that's been around for quite a while. We're either the second or third largest sales training organization worldwide. So there's over 230 locations and thousands of coaches. And I'm really fortunate to be a part of such a great operation. But we work very closely from the CEO all the way down into the sales and account management teams, and work with them very closely to develop a very repeatable, trackable, one of the biggest ways that if you look at, let's say, the world of golf, you look at a professional golfer who wants to become part of the tour and go on to win championships and win those tournaments, they work really closely with a coach with a lot of reinforcement coaching and training and working. They may go out to the driving range and hit the ball 600 times before the start of a multi-day tournament. And that's what we do with all of the teams that we work with. But it's crucial that it's from the top down. So you have to have a very full common sales language amongst the entire corporation. And we work to just develop a non-traditional pushy sales approach. This is the complete opposite.
Yeah. And if you think about it, if you're in a sales position or you're training somebody to be somebody who is in a position like that, I think we have to understand, as people who are trying to really be helpful to clients while building a business, right? Is that it's kind of a position of influence if you can get somebody to listen to you and trust you, right? And then you step into that position in their mind. So now they trust you, and whatever it is that you're selling them, you're convincing them that it would be helpful for them. You're influencing them, and you have to use that position of influence in a way that feels good, that feels right. And I think this art of selling kind of has that feel to me. So
it definitely does.
Yeah. So you use the Sandler sales system. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Sandler selling system is one that's tied around making sure that someone is consulted in a way where they're not being forced to make a decision that is not right for them. And one of the most common things that as someone comes through and develops their process using the Sandler methodologies, we very, very commonly are disqualifying prospects that simply aren't a fit. There's such a push out there in the marketplace to qualify. And we find that actually some of the greatest amount of time that's saved by an individual salesperson is when they are able to identify early on in the process whether or not someone's actually qualified to even do business with you. And so we put a lot of effort and emphasis into the art behind what are the right questions that should be being asked from start to finish to allow someone to be able to make that call. As a professional seller, you should be able to say, hey, actually, this we're probably not the best fit for you, and in fact that may be what you're feeling as well. And sometimes you pull out of the thing long before you'd even do a proposal.
So that is a very interesting point, because there's a lot of layers in what you just said to me. I want to kind of touch on that it almost can make you more attractive to a buyer to be able to tell them, listen, I don't think we are a good fit. And then they want it more. In some instances, I've seen that happen.
For sure.
Also, I think, how do you balance that disqualifying test with the fact that some people might feel like not heard, that they want to work with you, but they feel like, wait a minute, you don't want to work with me because I'm not qualified, I don't qualify in the. So how do you balance that? Because, you have that responsibility.
Love that you're asking that. I think as an individual corporation, you go to market and you say, okay, these are the areas that we're the strongest in. These are the clients that we can do the most good for. When they come on board, we just can hit it out of the park with this client. Or maybe you even say, as a company, based on the public reputation that we want to have and hold, this is the type of businesses that we want to be associated with and do work. And so you have to establish first, who is it that we can serve best? Who is it that we really are going to hit it out of the park with? And that's going to be our target market. And once you know who that is, you then have to kind of create some non-negotiables. And you have to say, if I can be talking with this prospect and I discover through the right questioning that, the actual critical need for change is there. They have a very workable budget that truly makes sense. It fits, their budget fits in with what we have, the resources, which can be things like time, money. It's not just a monetary component when it comes to budget. There's a lot of, does someone actually have the time to commit to to, let that process take place and let the change come. And maybe even you take it a step further and you say, is their decision-making process and the way that they go about, deciding if they're going to do, make a change and do business, does that match with the way we go to market? Does that match with the way that we know we can serve a client best? And when there's the absence of any one of those items, and you may come up with a list of 4 things, or maybe it's 5 things where you say, this is what we have to have as an organization to really, really succeed for our clients and serve them in the highest way possible. When there's something standing in the way of that, and whether it's from the prospect side, or maybe it's just even based on how the prospect operates, you simply are not going to be able to serve them in the best way. It becomes your duty to tell them, hey, as much as we'd love to be the answer for you here, here's the reason why it probably wouldn't work. And maybe there's some wiggle room sometimes to where you can go ahead and get things to where they are aligned. But other times you just have to say, hey, let's try to point you in a direction that would work.
Yeah. Well, I think it is definitely important to have sort of that criteria built into the system to really be able to do your best work for the people that really need your skill set. So I'm going to shift courses a little bit.
Sure.
And you mentioned there was a question in your bio that talked about, or I kind of took a lot of the buzzwords from your bio and your Podmatch profile, because it kind of resonated with me. So beyond the initial spark, when I read that, I thought about my philosophy on the customer journey. So a lot of times people get really, they're very motivated and very enthusiastic when they're trying to convert a client, right? They're trying to court them, convert them, propose them, show them, meet the objections, all those things. And then the client is converted and they give you their credit card and they pay, and then silence for a long time. And I always thought that the companies that do it best are the ones who don't only give you attention right when they're trying to convert you, but really, as soon as they convert you, tell you what the next step is.
Yeah.
And because people go, okay, wait, now what? You never want your client to say, okay, wait, now what? Do you have I don't know if that relates to that phrase beyond the initial spark, but that's how I read it, because I have thought about this before. Can you elaborate on that customer journey beyond the point after which they trust you, they've sold you. Now, how do you take care of them?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you talk, there's within the world of Sandler, there's a lot of rules that were created that the original founder, David Sandler, came up with, where, kind of just really good rules of thumbs. And the one that comes to mind is, don't buy back tomorrow what you sold today. And one of the biggest ways to make sure you're staying true to that is that when you get a yes from someone, we kind of are in a culture right now where everyone feels like the yes is what you get at the end, and that's what the summation of all the work and the effort of coming together and trying to come up with a proposal, that's where it stops. And you really have to walk away from that mindset. And as a professional seller, say, you know what, yes is the beginning. And there's a sales genius out there, and I can't think of his name right off the top of my head, but he's kind of the one that really honed in on this thought process, is that it begins with yes. That's the beginning of what the next steps are going to be. And the clearer you can get, where, let's look at an example of like Thanksgiving dinner. You're going with your family, you and a spouse are going to go to her parents, and there's going to be all sorts of things that are going to happen. There's things that maybe should be discussed before you go to that dinner, of how long are we going to stay? If this topic comes up, what are we going to do? Who's drinking? Who's driving? What's off limits? Are there any special passwords or keywords, safe words, that says, hey, if this is said, we got to go find a room and have a chat. In the absence of that, you get there and there can be a lot of bad arguments or discomfortable conversations when you leave later. And really, sales and working with prospects and clients is no different. In the absence of those rules or something just being established of what's the road forward, like crystal clear, where if you walk away and I walk away, we both know without a doubt what's going to happen from this road forward, it's crucial. And when that's missing, there's a huge population. There's studies that have been done on it. In the absence of rules, what do people want done? Like 80 something percent would rather the rules be established. And so why put your prospects through that unknown of, hey, I wonder if they're going to call. I wonder if I'm going to be getting an email. I wonder if, what's going to need to happen. There's usually so many moving parts where different departments need assignments. And you really could, probably the most effective way to go at this is you create a timeline. And you've heard the saying, begin with the end in mind. So if you look and say, okay, we're bringing this new client on board and it's going to take about 30 days to onboard them. And at the end of 30 days, we want to be functional. We want all the software in place. We want everything working. Well, you'd start from that end date and you'd say, okay, well, let's chronologically go backwards and say what has to happen. And let's assign dates to what needs to happen so that if we're coming up on one of these dates where we said, this thing's going to fail if we don't get this done by this certain date, or, hey, prospect, you owe me something right now for me to be able to move forward with this. That's probably one of the most efficient and crucial things that you can do, because otherwise you're kind of putting your prospect out there to guess. And no one's comfortable with that.
Yeah. I mean, this is exactly it. This is such an important part of selling, is that selling doesn't begin with the yes. I mean, it doesn't end with the yes. It begins with the yes, right? They say yes. It doesn't mean your job is done, because you're in that mode of trying to convert the client, and you're like, that's a hard process if you aren't saying or doing or answering the right questions, or you're not talking to the right people. But I love this thought that it does not end with the yes. That is just the beginning of the journey. And then looking at what outcome you want to get for the client and reverse engineering that, so that you know what you owe the client and the client knows what they owe you for you to get your job done, and really for it to be a smooth process and a pleasant one, because it's not enough for it to be a smooth process. You have to also delight them, dazzle them, make them feel heard, all the things, if you want to stand out in the market, right?
You said it. Yeah. I think of just, like something as basic, but yet it's more complex than anyone would ever imagine. The world of Disney. They work so hard at making sure that their clients get the most hyper realistic experience you could possibly imagine on Earth. And it's so intentional. Like, there is nothing that's not done with the most, attention to detail, making sure every T is crossed, every I is dotted. And it's magical. There's a magic behind it. And really, that's what you have to take into your organization and say, what can we do to make sure that our clients are experiencing the most truly crazy, amazing experience they've ever experienced with a vendor?
I love that you brought up the Disney example, because that's to me, like, that's so obvious the way Disney does it. But then if I'm an entrepreneur, like, I understand that because I'm in a creative industry where I can do little things to make my clients feel magical. I'm an image consultant, branding expert. I play with color and clothes and decor and all that stuff. But let's say I'm an entrepreneur who sells widgets.
Yeah.
And or I sell digital stuff. How do I make that so that the customer journey feels?
Where's the magic in the widget?
Where's the magic, right? There's always a way. But for people who are listening, let's say, or listening to this afterwards, and they're like, well, okay, fine. Well, I'm not Disney, I'm not Disneyland. I'm not in a creative industry. My industry is very dry. Do you have any tips on that one?
Yeah. I think, it would take boiling down and saying, okay, what are the greatest needs within what your clients would potentially need? And a lot of it ends up becoming, so in my world, this is going to be kind of wild. if I'm going and I'm going to work with a logistics and transportation company, and I bring them on board, and I've got their entire, 15, 20 people inside sales, and they're going to learn the Sandler methodologies and marry it in with what they're currently doing to make it even more successful. And I say, okay, where else can I make the magic happen for this organization? And I start to identify, okay, every single one of these 15 to 20 reps are calling on this other organization, and this organization is giving them quotes for things, and that quote becomes a part of their quote. And so I might identify, number one, my services are needed with a supporting organization that makes their life easier. So that would be magic, that you could go out there and you say, hey, let's identify within your world, what are the wheels, what's the spokes on the wheel that make this thing really rock and roll. And so then we're going to go and we're going to say, okay, is there something broken on that spoke that we could actually help and make it go better? And so, like in the widget world, maybe there's where does the materials come from? And is there a way to, find, there's just so many different things that you could do to make the process smoother. You just have to go, I would argue that you have to put on the hat of, there could be potentially zero monetary gain to me for the time that I'm going to put into finding the magic behind what this organization needs. And you're going to be out there consulting and finding and tweaking and saying, okay, what's the mix that really makes their world go round? And you just, even them being aware that you're wanting that to be there for them is magical in and of itself. But I promise you'll find it, and the revenue follows. It really does, even though it may feel like you're doing something unpaid.
Well, I totally agree. And back to your thought about going into it thinking there's zero return, like zero in it for you. Yeah, definitely that is the mindset you need to go into it with. However, if you make a client's journey magical, that is just them converting them for the next time they need you. And it's also creating a source of referrals for you.
Yeah.
So that is, I feel like that's the return. And if you truly can make it magical and meet their expectations, and it isn't always about being the cheapest.
No,
it's not always about that. It's about really creating the feeling that I've got you in this area. I've got your back. You never have to worry about a thing when it comes to this area of expertise that you hired me for. And I feel like people feel when they feel supported that way, they don't want, it's almost, I know this sounds kind of bad, but it's a dependency. When you find, it's like when you find a great employee, you want to hang on to them, right? Yeah. You don't want them to go. And, but so you're kind of almost, if you think about your company or what you're providing for your client as something they need, that they depend on, then I think you've kind of converted them for life, right? I mean, depending on
they can't live without it. And it really, at the end of the day, unless they're an organization that just never intends to grow and scale beyond where they are that day, they should be someone that, like you said, they're kind of for life. They're someone that you get the opportunity to, as they grow and evolve, you get to be there every step of the way. You really do.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'll tell you, the conversation about sales training and really being able to develop a sales team with the expertise you have and the work you've done with companies is such a deep topic. It's like you can't cover that in 30 minutes or 40 minutes, right? So it's like, this is like just the beginning of this conversation. And I'm like, there is so much to really reveal to people who want to be better salespeople. We're going to use the word salespeople because that is essentially what it is, but it just has a negative connotation sometimes, right? But
it does. But the professionals, if they have the right mindset about themselves, that's conveyed to the prospects, and they feel that. They really do.
Yeah. And it takes having, that emotional quotient of being able to put yourself in their shoes, because I know you mentioned emotional quotient. and being able to understand what it is they need and how you can serve them if you can, and all the things that we just spoke about. But I want to ask one final question because, we have a limited amount of time today, but maybe you'll come back and talk to us
Yeah,
again.
for sure. For sure we can.
AI now it's really so powerful, right? And
Yeah.
it is going to be used in so many ways.
Yeah.
And there is a place for it in sales that is very positive. And so can you tell us about how you're incorporating that in your trainings, or any opinion you have about how that's going to work?
Okay. Yeah. I love talking about AI because I think it is something that any organization right now needs to be very open and at least consider what it could do within their organization in a positive light. Of course, anything new that's jumping into the scene, has some negatives here and there, but in the most positive sense of what AI is, when it comes to sales specifically, there's a lot of data that there's software that's been created and AI, I guess they're commands, so to speak, because AI is only as strong as the input what you put into it. And so there are people that have worked really diligently to create a measuring, so to speak, when it comes to there's a tool out there that can measure and look at what is the engagement and the responses that are being given on LinkedIn of an individual. And based on what those responses and likes and the different things that they are into and that they follow, you can start to see a buying pattern that specific prospect, getting tongue tied here, that specific prospect might have. You can kind of start to see what style and what environment are they most comfortable in. So you've got an individual professional, a seller, who is wanting to become, going back to the word, hyper aware, kind of that Disney thought process. How are we to create a magical experience? As an individual, you want to be hyper aware of what this individual likes. What environment are they most comfortable in when it comes to making a decision and buying? Well, as a professional, you can over time develop skills to see those things on your own. And a lot of that is, just the psychology behind how humans work and think. Or maybe AI right now has a way to where they can simply look at what someone is looking at and what they're clicking on and what they're responding with their comments on something like LinkedIn. That is a platform, and it will start making it a little bit of a shortcut for you to where you don't have to spend 6 months with that prospect learning and understanding them. And maybe AI is going to give you some cheats to where you're going to see that a little bit quicker. And if they are, then you then can cater, and as you go and you are going to be presenting, or you're bringing in, all the different parties who are going to be part of a decision process, you can have data on each one of those individuals way quicker than maybe you would have had just on your own doing individual interviews and meeting with people. So, AI can definitely shortcut what we can learn about others. And of course, it's not perfect. There's guaranteed to be some stuff that, someone would read what it says about them as a buyer and they'd be like, that's not right. That's not me. But maybe it's more accurate than someone would ever care to admit.
Yeah. No, I know. I feel like AI can be such a powerful tool in really most arenas. And definitely with sales, I feel like AI and all the algorithms that were ever created before we as a public learned more about AI, it was already in place, like with Instagram and all the social media platforms. They were already
Really is.
had an algorithm, and that, so very, very interesting. So as we wrap up the show, we always try and get like that sort of the squeeze the juice out of the show, like really get that last word that you're going to leave us with. And I would just ask you, what would you say is the biggest takeaway from our show today, from what we've discussed for the audience?
Biggest takeaway is going to be being so intentional. And I'm going to give you a biggest takeaway, but then I'm going to add one thing to it if
Go
we've
ahead.
got time. So being so super intentional with what you're bringing to your prospects and what you're doing for them. I think we have to just deliver ridiculous value. Stop under delivering for your prospects on what they brought you on board to do. Show up, give them more than they ever even dreamed they could possibly receive from you. Make it incredible, make it amazing. And you talked about referrals and people being able to, make those introductions to you. They're going to happen without you ever even having to ask for them, because someone's just going to come out and say, hey, this is someone that really cares. They really care. And the final thought, I'd love for, if any organization is out there really wanting to see some of these changes come to their organization, and they say, I want some of that. I want that culture. I want that thought process running through all my sellers. Start to think, what are the systematic changes that need to happen? There's habits, good and bad, that all people have on earth. And within the world of sales, there's many, many bad habits. And how could there be a culture of change within an organization where from the top down, there's a systematic change behind how something's done so that people can learn and create new habits around doing it a new way and a right way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you've been very generous saying that you have a freemium for our audience if they put the hashtag. We have a hashtag for that. We usually identify people that way on Facebook. They can, we can identify them if they're interested in this. And it's
let's go. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Hashtag sales formula and shine. And tell us what it is that you were so generously offering.
Yeah. So anyone that mentions that they saw this episode or that they saw this this interview, they will receive a free growth and scaling coaching session with me. So this is where we get an opportunity to dive in and find out where you're at today, where you're looking to go, and start to put together a mini strategy around what it would look like to have the organization, running on all cylinders and working like what we've talked about, some of the stuff today.
Wow. Well, that is an amazing tool. Thank you for offering it to the audience. And
Absolutely.
Give us a tip. Give us one tip we can, when it comes to sales. I mean, you gave us a lot, but just kind of extract that one thing.
One final thought here.
Yeah.
It'd be to, if you're in the sales profession, do not be willing to sit back and be comfortable. I think, there's a saying that comfort zones is where dreams go to die. And so, I know I myself, before I even got into coaching, I was in sales for 15 plus years. And I kicked myself for not putting in the time and effort and energy into finding what are some things that I could have done back then in the early years to really start to level up. And the biggest reason why I never did it is because I was comfortable. I was making a decent income, and it allowed me to be comfortable. But at the end of the day, I was never happy, and I wasn't pursuing the dreams that I knew I was capable of. So I encourage every single person to challenge yourself to be willing to be uncomfortable, be willing to let yourself be, have some exposure to that. And you'll be amazed to start to see what can happen when you open yourself up to that.
Yeah. Well, isn't that something to live by, actually, in anything, right? You always want to be learning and pushing yourself for more challenges so that you can grow. I mean, that is the definition of growing, is just trying to get better and better. So that is that, and bigger and bigger, or better and better. So that is really, it is really key in anything, especially I guess when it comes to sales, because it's ever changing and the way people buy changes. So you really have to kind of keep growing and educating yourself. So finally, people are listening perhaps to this episode, or they're watching it and they want to go and they love what you're saying here, but they are overwhelmed by the amount of information. What is one action item they can take, just easy action item they can take so that they can, become better at their selling process?
Create a list of 7 things that you absolutely know you need to do to better serve your client. Then I want you to go to that list of 7, and I want you to pick one thing. And I want you to pick the one that probably would make the biggest impact and move the needle the furthest within your business. And I then want you to create 3 action items for that one thing that you've elected. and I want you to dial in, dial in, dial in. Start to do it, start to refine that process, create new habits around those 3 action items, 1 out of 7 that you picked and said, this is the one that's going to move the needle the most for my clients. And there, without action, there's really going to be no change that sticks. So you have to absolutely change your behavior behind what you're doing.
Absolutely. Action is the catalyst. We always say it. We know a lot of things, but do we take action on them, right?
Yeah.
Matt, thank you so much for being a guest on Waist Up Wardrobe.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Really enjoyed our conversation. It's been, sales is actually, if you take it seriously and you think about it intentionally, it's a very fascinating topic. And if you're doing it with an open heart and love for the people you're serving, it gets even more fun and more interesting, I think.
So true.
True. Yeah.
If someone's feeling like they're in a grind, you likely just haven't had the best exposure to really what sales can be when it's done in the right way.
Absolutely. So thank you for being here and enlightening us with your genius. And we really appreciate that. And I forgot at the outset of the show to thank my super awesome producer, Rick Moscoso, who's always in the production room making this entire show possible. So thank you, Rick, for all the bells and whistles. Hi there, Rick. Thank you for streaming. And Rick is actually on vacation right now. And this is a live show. And he is streaming from a library local to him, which just
so dedicated.
Shows, I know, so dedicated to Waist Up Wardrobe. It's incredible. So thank you again, Matt, for being here. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Waist Up Wardrobe Nation, for being here for another show of Waist Up Wardrobe. You know the drill. We're here every Thursday at 11:30 live Pacific time, bringing you a new fresh show so that you can up-level your professional mindset, professional appearance, and image on and off camera. So join us again next week and maybe tell a friend.
Okay.
How was that?
Oh, that was awesome. You did such a great job as a host. And if you would have given me any more chance to say something, I was just going to thank you for the great job you did. But
oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. That was my next question. How was it for you? Do you have any feedback? Any positive or constructive feedback?
10 out of 10.
Okay. Amazing. And honestly, this topic is so amazing. I love just the idea of talking to somebody that understands that sales is not just about selling, right? And that it's not the end when you get the sale. So you've been a wealth of knowledge, a great conversation. And I would love to maybe get you back on the show sometime to carve out another, subset topic that we can talk about. I would love that.
Let's definitely do that. There's all sorts of stuff to tackle.
Yeah. And I've met so many fantastic guests through Podmatch for the show. I'm trying to build a community of partners and experts that can collaborate or talk to each other or refer to each other. I'm trying to really get all these minds together, and I'll be sending out an email about it. Is that something do I have your permission to just maybe send the email out to see if it's something you want to be a part of?
Yes.
100%. Awesome. Well, you go enjoy your volleyball with your girls, and it was really great to learn that about you. And
thank you so much.
And I hope to connect with you very soon again, Matt.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, appreciate you both. Really enjoyed it. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Hey, that was amazing. I thought
that was great.
Yeah, the topic was, I love that topic. I'm realizing that when it comes to sales, I really, really love kind of dissecting the details. So anyway, but all right, let's do the speedy recap because I'm sure you don't want to spend any more time on vacation on Waste Up Wardrobe, although even though you love Waste Up Wardrobe, right? I do want to Rick, there is one thing I want to talk to you about though. So when we go off after the speedy, it should take a couple of seconds.
Okay. You need a minute to do your thing or to get together?
I need a minute to get myself together, yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay, so don't start recording right now?
No. Yeah, give me a minute.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm ready when you are.
All right, here we go. Go ahead when you're ready.
If you're a business owner, you know that there is selling and there's selling. You can't be salesy, you have to be authentic. And there's so many things that go into being effective in your sale process. You have to have the proper EQ. You have to know your avatar. You have to know what they want. And if they want to invest in it, you have to convince them that it would be helpful for them authentically, doing all that authentically so that your client never has buyer's remorse for paying you to do something for them.
Okay.
Not bad?
Yeah, that's good.
I stumbled. I kind of choked at the end, but is that okay? You think?
No, it was fine.
Okay. The ultimate sales formula. Oh, my hair is just not cooperating today. Sorry. Okay. In Waist Up Wardrobe, episode 162, the ultimate sales formula, the main takeaway our guest shared with us is to know that you must be intentional in the way you deliver your service. He mentioned Disney and how everything in the Disney company is intentional, and that is how you need to do it too, even if you are somebody who sells widgets.
Okay.
The tool he offered was an amazing one-on-one strategy session with him, whereby he will evaluate your sales process now and kind of tell you how you can reach your better sales goals of being able to sell better. What do you think? Is that okay?
Okay.
Will that work, you think?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay. Tip. Our guest also gave us a key tip, and his key tip was never sit back and our guest also gave us a key tip. His advice was never sit back and get comfortable with the process you have. Always learn so that you can get better and better. You can evolve with technology evolution, and really always think about how you can make that customer journey better. Never get comfortable delivering your service any one way. And finally, action item. He shared with us that he would like us to go make a list of 7 things during that. Can I start at action item?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And finally, the action item he gave us was to make a list of 7 things during your sale process that you think you can do better at. Take one of those things and mark 3 little bullet points that you can do to make that one thing better. Good? Enough?
Yeah.
You want me to do it again?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do it again.
It sounded a little funky. Go ahead and try it again.
Okay. And finally, action item. Our guest recommended that we make a list of 7 things where we can improve our sales process and the way we serve our clients. And then when you make that list of 7 things, pick one thing and just focus on that and try and perfect that one thing.
Yep, that's good.
Alrighty, can we kill the broadcast?